Burn live, burn live, burn live, burn live, burn live, burn live. It's going down, baby. Burning through ashes, trying to make comments. Burn live, burn live, burn live, man. Where we burn through conversation, trying to ask y'all some common sense. I appreciate people stopping through, coming through. I am your host, Capiche. This goes down Monday through Friday. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time that you was watching it. Oh my God, that looks good. We look good. We in 1080p. You know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. I'm just trying to show out my content with you guys. Please like, follow, share, do all that good stuff. Today we're going to be getting into comic books and stuff like that. I was supposed to have my co-host with me. They're a little busy today, which is okay, understandable. Let me just share this out just a little bit, y'all. Let me share this out just a little bit. You know, sometimes we got to share this out to those who are be looking for me. Get my retweet on Twitter. Yeah, I'm on Twitter. Yeah, man, gotta get my retweet on, y'all. All right, y'all. So I think it was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I had my co-host up here and we was talking about comic books because we started off on Talk of the Tick talking about comic books and Avengers Doomsday is coming out. It's going to be one of the biggest movies of this year. And the whole discussion we was talking about was actually, what's his name? Black Panther. And Black Panther came out in 1964. 1964. And it was amazing to some people that Black Panther been out for so long. And a lot of people didn't recognize until the movie came out. And when the movie came out, a lot of people thought that was the first time Black Panther has ever been in comic books, hit the big screen, which the big screen is true. But comic books was different. It's been in comics for the very first time. It was Fantastic Four and like that. So, with that being said and done, it made me want to go deeper into comic books. I'm like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Let's go deep diving into the history and where comic books come from, why was they created and stuff like that. So I decided to make this into like a 7-part series. You know, we really get deep diving into comic books, see where they come from, good stories, bad stories. I think there's a lot to cover when it comes to comic book. There's also a lot of news to cover when it comes to comic books too. we'll see how this goes. If y'all comment a lot, y'all come in, y'all like what y'all see and stuff like that. So then I would say come in. We would keep this up. We would keep this going. Because I promise you, everybody that's watching, thank you for the 5 that's watching on YouTube. Thank you for the few that's watching on Bookface. For the couple that's watching on X, I appreciate it. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. If you do say hello, as you see, I will post you, put you up there, and let you see yourself on the show. So I think we should get into today. Today, I think we should look up the history of comics. Look up the history. Yeah, let's look up the history of comic books. I'm trying to see, because I didn't prepare. I didn't really prepare. But I do believe this is a very good start for us. As far as what we're looking for. Without further ado, y'all, let's get into some history of the comic book era.
Books filled with superheroes, classic stories, or adult dramas. Some of them are really selling. Their pages have captivated readers for over 80 years.
80 years. This was put out 9 years, so we're talking about almost 90 years ago. So we're talking 90 years ago now. This was 80. This video came out, what, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, so 20 years.
This is the history of comic. Using images to communicate goes back to the 32nd century BC, when Egyptians devised hieroglyphs with over 1,000 images representing ideas. In the same way, tapestries told stories through scenes depicted on the lush textiles in medieval European times. Mass production of paper allowed for the next medium of sequential art to emerge. While printed forms of picture-based stories appeared in Europe prior, the first American example of a comic strip came in the form of The Yellow Kid. The Kid's creator, Richard Outcault, infused the comic with political and social commentary. Due to the popularity of The Yellow Kid, other comic strips soon appeared. In 1933, Famous Funnies collected some of the serialized newspaper strips into a book format.
Could you imagine seeing some of these comic books today? I remember looking at comic books looking like this when I was coming up, not knowing that I was that close to the beginning of the creation of comic books. Never would have thought.
Though this collection included reprintings, many historians have deemed this publication as the first comic book. 38, the golden age of comic books began with Action Comics #1. This first appearance of Superman ushered in the cape and cowl popularity of the superhero. The golden age would give birth to many of today's beloved heroes, including Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Captain America, and Captain Marvel. Many of the heroes grew so popular that they became symbolic elements in the war effort in World War.
Now, I do remember around this time when comic books came out, that they was exploring, telling kids about wars that was going on, especially the Nazi war. That's why you see Hitler on her. That's what I knew comic books were about, telling kids about stories that was really going on in modern day time to keep kids up to war. Because I do believe, and don't quote me on this, but around this time, a lot of fathers were gone away from the homes in a war. So to keep kids, especially boys, up to par, wondering what their daddy was doing and stuff like that. So people in America wouldn't really trip or over panic. They put out comic books like this to tell stories about the war that was going on. Now, that's when I was coming up and I was looking at comic books. That was true.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with you on that one. I just wanted to jump in and see what was going on because I'm on break. I seen you post that in the podcast group.
Yeah, man. We switched Wednesday to comic books, deep diving. Look, I'm a nerd. I should have been did this. I'm a nerd. So this should have been easy for me to do. But I do want to thank and shout out to Miss Brooklyn, the Vibes community, for pushing this forward. And they just opened up a can of worms that I'm going to enjoy.
Right. All right, brother. Well, enjoy your podcast, brother. I got to get back here soon. I just wanted to jump on and say good luck. I didn't know you switched days, so that was awesome to get to see that because a lot of people don't know the history of comics and why they made comics the way they did and how to appeal to their audiences. So that's awesome.
Right on, bro. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Good luck on you too, homie.
Absolutely. I'm working on the promotion, so that's the only reason I switched shifts. But I'll talk to you later, brother.
All right. Peace. Before we keep going, let me do this real quick. Before we keep going, I do want to give a shout out to my Vibes community. I love them to death. They are the best people in the world. And without further ado, I'd like to give them their due. And here we go.
Hey friends, it's your girl Brooklyn. Where's the vibe? The vibe is live. 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 a.m. Pacific. We have jokes, laughs, a good time. So come by and check us out. It's myself, the Cookie, and Capiche. Come on by, check us out for a good time on the Vibes Live. I will see you there.
Please go check out the Vibes. Go check out Brooklyn, Northly on TikTok. You would catch me there 3 to 6 Pacific time, 6 to 9 Eastern time. It really, really goes down. Without further ado, y'all, let's get back into the history of comic books.
World War II, and comic covers often depicted heroes beating up Hitler. Not all comics featured heroes, though. Many of the horror comics, such as EC's Vault of Horror, drew in readers who wanted their comics more dark and macabre. The taboo-breaking storylines and shocking artwork garnered too much attention. Psychiatrist Frederick Wertham filed a study called Seduction of the Innocent, where he claimed comic books to be a source corrupting the youthful readers. A Senate subcommittee investigated, and the comic industry self-imposed a set of codes and laws to keep comics upbeat and morally positive. In 1956, Showcase number 4 introduced the world to a new version of a DC comic favorite, The Flash. Thus,
so for comic books to get regulated back then, because they felt, even though it wasn't how it is today on TV, on HBO, and stuff like that, but to think that we were trying to preserve people's innocence, I don't think we do that today. I really, truly don't think we do that today. We do not preserve people's innocence. So for them to even do it back then is amazing. To do it today, we really don't recognize it. It's not recognizable. It should be recognizable, but it's not. And I'm proud to see that, you know what I'm saying, we started like this, and maybe we need to get back into this when it comes to book reading, especially in school for little kids.
The silver age of comics began. During this time, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby at Marvel Comics would create some of the most beloved heroes, including Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, and the Incredible Hulk. By the 1970s, the counterculture popularity no longer wanted clean-cut heroes. An underground movement of comics rose, and artists like R. Crumb published adult-themed comics in small presses. Since the use of the Comics Code was optional, the underground movement needed no permission, and they had no limitations on their subject matters. By the 1980s,
adult comic books made you wonder, like, did that's where adult porn industry started from? Did we start it from comic books? And like, you know what? Instead of drawing stuff, we're gonna put real people in here and have them show off their body parts. Make you wonder, don't know. It's not like we're looking into the depth of pornography. This is comic books, but it do kind of shed a little light or make you want to really kind of think about what pushed certain things to the edge or what involved it.
The modern era of comics saw the big two publishers going head-to-head, Marvel and DC. While they battled for top billing, their characters appeared on television prime time in Saturday morning cartoons. In smaller presses like Pacific, Eclipse, and Fantagraphics slowly entered into the market. The graphic novel also rose in popularity during the 80s. These longer works sometimes were printed comic story arcs, but many featured original, unseen material. This longer form allowed for more in-depth storytelling, and the dramatic content often won literary awards. When the 1990s hit, the comic book artists grew in celebrity status. Their popularity allowed them something hardly seen in the industry: a split from the big two publishers. Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, and Jim Valentino formed their own company, Image, and rocked the comic book world. Events.
I wasn't really into Incredible, but I was into Spawn. So we got a little history of the comic books and where they came from, how long ago, what was their purposes, and why we are watching, why comic books are so big today. Now, today in comic book, what first shaped comic books, I don't even know that. This. I think this is intriguing. I don't think we all know this. I never know this answer. So I just want to play the intro one more time so y'all can hear what I heard.
In this video, we're breaking down the very firsts in comic book history, the characters, ideas, and moments that changed the medium forever. The first superhero. The first true superhero to ever grace the pages of comic books is Superman, born on the planet Krypton as Kal-El, created by two.
Now, we just did another video. Who was so-called the first? Now, they said the first superhero. So this is more for like superheroes. Superman was first. People need to recognize that. I'm doing this because I know for a fact I am going to have discussions on my TikTok with my TikTok friends. As you just seen, I just posted. So I'm doing this. So when people say who was the first comic book character to ever grace the page, and I say Superman, they can be like, you're lying. I'm like, I covered it. I covered it this year on my page.
Young dreamers from Cleveland, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Superman Superman wasn't just another character. He was the prototype, the foundation, the template from which nearly every superhero that followed would be built. Getting Superman published was anything but easy. Siegel and Schuster faced rejection after rejection before the character finally found a home at DC Comics. Decisions are still debated today, but what isn't up for debate is the impact that Superman made when he debuted in Action Comics #1 in 1938. With that single issue, The Last Son of Krypton permanently altered pop culture. Superman didn't just
a lot of people don't want to recognize Superman is the iconic Superman, even though he was an alien. They wrote Superman in the image of protecting America. I don't think people realize that, or a lot of people really didn't care, but that was his purpose, was to really just to show us, what was his purpose. And his purpose was to fight for me and you, you know what I'm saying? Because there was bad guys and stuff like that. Spider-Man was to represent the teenager, the kid in us that wanted to be a superhero, that wanted to fight for the same cause, but had a lot more to fight for and deal with everyday life struggles. Being a kid, going through puberty, and things of that nature. Okay. So when you look at that, and I had this debate, the 3 top comic book characters of all time, which is Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man. But we're saying of our time. Now, when we say in modern day, who's the top, you're going to probably say Iron Man, Captain America, and Spider-Man. You're going to probably say Marvel. But notice that these comic books, and at the beginning, really don't mention Marvel. They mention Marvel, but not heavily. We're talking about the start, the first of the first already. And what we're talking about, Superman. We're only a minute in. We're not going to go too far. But Superman. Justice League. And it's going to be a lot. Yeah. See. Oh, they even going to go to the Phantom. And then they're going to go into Sidekicks. Let's go.
Succeed. He defined what a superhero was. Of course, not everyone agrees that Superman deserves the title of first superhero. Critics often pro heroes like the Shadow or the fighting crime or super the tall building. And to be fair, those arguments aren't baseless. The Shadow emerged from early 20th century radio dramas and pulp fiction, standing alongside adventure icons like Zorro and Doc Savage. The Phantom arguably has the stronger claim, though, as a costume crime fighter who debuted in newspaper comic strips, the direct ancestor of modern comic books. But this is where
comic books first started, where both of us first started seeing our comic books at, were in comic strips, where you was a kid and your parents, not your modern day, but back in the day, kids used to be handed the comic strip at the sports section. We had the sports weather. Basically ads, had mostly ads in there, and that was basically the beginning. That was the beginning. I just don't understand
where Superman pulls ahead. For all his style and symbolism, the Phantom is ultimately a costumed hero. No superpowers, no larger-than-life abilities. His greatest legacy is visual, skin-tight suits, pupilless masks, and iconic imagery. It's important, but not quite definitive. Superman, on the other hand, introduced the full superhero package: the costume, the secret identity, the moral mission.
This may be the last ad you ever see. Because with the free ad block extension from Capital One,
and more importantly, superhuman power explicitly stood for truth, justice, and the greater good, elevating the concept behind
truth, justice, and the American way. That's one thing he leaving out, and that's what made him so iconic the way he was, because that key word at the end that he left out, which I believe he left it out on purpose because or whatever, but the American way. Look at his colors. He almost got the American color except for the yellow. Should be white.
Adventurism into something mythic. That's the key distinction. Superheroes didn't appear out of nowhere. They evolved from pulp fiction and comic strip heroes. But when all of these elements fused into a single character, a new genre was born, like how rock eventually gave rise to metal. So whether you crown Superman the first superhero or not, one truth remains unavoidable. He didn't just create a genre, he ignited an industry, one that inspired generations, shaped storytelling. The first sidekick. When most people picture a comic book sidekick,
this is a good reason to let you know why Batman is the number 2 biggest selling iconic person out there. First sidekick to ever hit the screen was Robin, Dick Grayson. Before Dick Grayson, you had to have Batman and his stories. Yet again, we're talking about the first, and yet again, we still ain't touched no more. I want y'all to really pay attention to that. Probably gonna hit more until you say the first black comic book character. Yeah, okay. There you got it.
pretty good chance they imagine a preteen kid in bright yellow and red and green tights, a domino mask stretched across his face. And in comic book history, the title of first ever sidekick belongs to Dick Grayson, better known as Robin the Boy Wonder. Now, to be clear, we're not arguing that Robin was the first sidekick in all of pop culture. Long before comics embraced the concept, characters like Tonto from the Lone Ranger or Woola from John Carter were already filling supporting roles in adventure fiction. But when it comes to the comic book medium, it's Robin, no contest. Adding yet another innovation to DC Comics is
basically saying when it came to comic books, when it came to the word sidekick is because of Batman. And sidekick didn't, you probably really didn't look at Tonto from Zorro as a sidekick. You know what I'm saying? He was just a helper. We really wasn't using those terminologies. Those frame of thoughts wasn't popular.
Growing legacy, Robin didn't just accompany Batman. He defined what a superhero sidekick was supposed to be. And crucially, the concept wasn't born purely out of storytelling necessity. It was born out of sales. In the golden age, comic books were marketed primarily to kids. And what better way to hook that audience than by introducing a character who looked exactly like them, talked like them, and experienced the world from their perspective. A godlike alien in blue and red tights, or a brooding man in a bat costume made for great spectacle. But relatability? That's where Robin came in. Robin's influence quickly spread throughout the industry. In fact, the character helped establish an unspoken rule of the superhero genre. The hero is a fully grown adult, while the sidekick is almost always a teenager. That dynamic became so ingrained that it shaped creative thinking for decades. Here's a fun example. Stan Lee famously struggled to pitch Spider-Man to Marvel's publisher, Martin Goodman. Why? Because at the time, the prevailing belief was that teenage characters had to be sidekicks, never the star of the book. But Robin's legacy goes deeper than that. Beyond defining the sidekick role, Robin helped popularize one of the most important ideas in superhero storytelling, legacy characters. The Robin identity proved that a superhero title didn't have to belong to a single individual forever. Instead, it could be passed down, reinterpreted, and redefined across generations. That's how we ended up with multiple Robins across DC.
This dude ain't. I don't want to hate on y'all like that and give y'all too much of that, but that's basically the beginnings and the first. But I hate to say it, y'all. Notice there's no Marvel first until you get to Black character. They are iconic today. Marvel comic books are iconic today. They're one of the biggest, highest gross of. Oh, absolute Batman goes to hell. Today. And I feel like I'm doing a wrong because we haven't mentioned nothing about them at all, except for me talking about Marvel. So there's a little history about them, y'all. But let me hit y'all with my boy. I like his update. I like update, and this is my report.
Been cast
right
for name we are all familiar with, and also somebody we have actually seen utilized as the Black Panther multiple times by Marvel.
If I don't get my information, anything that I tell or I explain or I know, when it's facts coming from comic books, come from them right here. Screenshot them, follow them, do whatever you got to do. If you're a comic book fan and you're still in here and you're watching because you're one of the comic book nerds, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. Probably gonna be doing this every Wednesday now until I can catch up to what's going on, and then we can get deep diving. But this is one of my very favorite sources, and I just want to give Marvel a little bit of credit. So that's why I'm going into this story for you. Okay.
With Avengers Secret Wars said to be a pretty sizable role for Black Panther, many leaks that featured Damson Idris as Black Panther in concept art. Well, a brand new report has hit that the F1 star will be shooting multiple projects this year. And one project specifically will be shot in Pinewood Studios, and that he is set to play the character of the Black Panther. This news first hit, as far as I can trace it, to actors that are carving out time and talking about how they're going to be available or unavailable during specific times. And people started to connect the dots and look at everything that's going on and realized that the actor is going to be near Pinewood Studios, again, where they're shooting Avengers Secret Wars. And the time that he's not doing any other projects will be from April up until the end of the year. Again, literally when they're shooting Avengers Secret Wars. And if you guys remember, in two recent interviews, or the last two interviews where he was asked, one, he specifically said he can talk about Black Panther, but he's not going to. And another one, they asked him if he's playing Black Panther. He said yes, and then he paused and said no, and laughed and said next question. So again, without 100% confirmation, things are just lined up here perfectly for him to take over the role of Black Panther and play T'Challa. Now again, rumors are still stating that he might be a multiverse version of T'Challa and not just the younger T'Challa all grown up, which I think is the smart way to handle this and the smart way to move forward. Just multiverse in a new T'Challa to honor Chadwick. And then after Secret Wars, he's the default T'Challa. You move forward. The sun is still there. It's a reset universe. So timelines have shifted and things are different. And then here we go. We got a whole new slate of Black Panther films that can obviously star him. So pretty exciting. And I'm excited to see how they're going to handle this and what he has to offer. Because if you haven't seen F1, you should. He is stellar in that project. Thank you for checking out.
So there you go, Marvel Studios. I don't want to hear that I didn't give y'all do. Marvel is busting ass when it comes to movies, y'all. And DC is slumping. DC may be on a rise, maybe depending on how you're looking at it. I have run across a lot of Marvel fans, and I really think y'all existed out there. But no, comic books is very exciting for me. Y'all, Wonder Man has just dropped on Disney Plus. Go check that out. Matter of fact, I need to go tell my friends something about that. Go check that out. That's actually going down. Wonder Man is, I guess, 8 episodes. They have been released, and y'all should go check that out. Probably a very good show, something interesting. Now, DC, I want to get into. When I get us all caught up and stuff like that, is the fact that in the comic books right now, DC is kicking ass as dropping books. And they have released this new books. This is year 2 of it. It's called Absolute. You got Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Superman, Absolute Green Lantern, The Flash, and Manhunter so far. And I think they actually dropped their first Justice League. And when I say all these books right here will catch you off guard, they're your same typical characters that's from the DC that you grew up and know, but intensified in a world that you wouldn't believe. It's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be getting deeper dive into this. I can't wait. This is just a small preview of what we're going to be doing. I'm switching Wednesdays up to comic books. We finna nerd it out over here. We is spent to nerd it out over here on Wednesdays. Shout out to my bias community. Thank you for this inspirational push. This is what I want on my Wednesdays now. AI Tuesdays, Marijuana Mondays, Comic Book Wednesdays, Cop Cam Thursdays, tomorrow, Politic Fridays. Interesting. Also, that's been popping off in the comic book industry, getting into Marvel, is Daredevil has released Born Again trailer for their 2nd season. If you did not see the 1st season, I don't know what to say. Mixed feelings. It was a pretty good season, but look at her. If you was watching Daredevil on Netflix, or if you have not seen Daredevil on Netflix, that is a must-see. Go watch. Very good comic book show. Adult content up to part, man, very good concept. And now that they're coming out with part 2, season 2, that's furthering the concept down there on the Disney. But they're getting dark. It's a lot to get into. But yet again, this is basically the catch-up. You know, we're just breaking it down, going over it lightly. There's so much to go over. You got the movies, you got the TV shows, you got Marvel, you got DC, you got comic books, you got actors. It's so much. It's a lot. I just didn't know how to get over here into this thing like this, into this comic book world, because I'm just so far behind on trying to catch up my audience with it. And you think you know this is something that you want to start off the new year, starting off talking with your group, talking with everybody, talking with your audience, like this is what you want to do. Sorry, this is a late switch, but I think this is what we should do. It's always a lot to cover in the comic books. As I'm stuck because like there's so much. We're gonna also have to go back to old school every day, every Wednesday. I feel like we just gonna have to break it. Somehow we're gonna have to break it down into like sections. Start off with, okay, we're gonna go old school, give a little history, do that for like 10-15 minutes. And then you're probably going to go into Marvel, DC, little coverage, probably both. Give each one 15 minutes, you know, Marvel coverage, DC coverage. And then you go into maybe something big that's on television or up and coming, deep diving into that. Then you get So I'm going to go probably like history, coverage, deep dive, something that wowed you, a wow moment. We're going to put it together, y'all. It's going to be an awesome show. Once again, like I said, it's going to be so much to cover in this. I don't know how it's going to stop, when it's going to stop. I think I got myself into something that's going to be phenomenal. X-Men is coming. We got Fantastic Four that just dropped. We got Superman that just dropped. We got Supergirl that's dropping this year. Another Spider-Man movie dropping this year. Come on, TV shows. Wonder Man just dropped. We got Daredevil dropping later on this year. Come on. Got a lot to talk about, man. A lot to go over. He-Man's dropping, which is a movie, which started as a cartoon. They do got comic books too. Something like that. A lot of people are into this comic book, and I got stories for days. This is just me introducing, saying hello. Burn Live, welcome to the comic book. Stretch. Say, oh shit, I don't think he's ready. I don't think you guys are ready. There's a lot to cover. Put down in the comment section who's your favorite comic book character. You know what I'm saying? We might have to go over that too, discuss that. That'd probably be cool, interesting. Mine's the Green Lantern Corps. I don't have a specific comic book character. I just like DC. I like it all. I do watch Marvel a lot. So I will be watching Wonder Man to break it down every episode, which I don't know how I'm gonna do that. Because mostly people see that's where I'm gonna have to start uploading videos. Talking about it live with y'all is sitting up here getting y'all engaged. You know what I'm saying? When y'all get engaged, now this is something I can engage with my audience with when it comes to what's up, what's going on, and stuff like that. I will engage with the audience in the comments on my Wednesday, especially when it comes to comic books. Okay? I will do that. I will make that special arrangement for you guys. So we got, you have the golden age, you have the bronze age, you have the new era, you have a lot of different eras, and yet again, y'all, we have different eras of comic books. They used to be separate, now they're gonna be all intertwined. Doomsday at the end of the year in November or December. I keep forgetting that. That's going to be something big and exclusive. Everybody cannot wait to see one of the biggest movies of the year. Should be breaking box office. Should be getting people out of their seats into the shows. And that's what we want to see. That's what they want to see. That's what we want to see. Because when y'all do that, when we do that, when we spend our money, they make more movies. We go look up what's the most high-selling stuff out there. Is probably going to be comic books and Avatar. Okay, Avatar. Are we ready, Burn Live, for comic books? I am definitely ready. There are going to be, I don't know if I'm going to ever get some comic book nerds up here like that. I know some, but yet again, they're not ready for me. There is one person out there I would like to bring over who's a big Marvel fan. And so therefore, that'll be a good discussion. Promise you that will be a good discussion. Y'all, I'm finna wrap this up. It's the Burn Live Show, man. Comic Book Wednesday, man, is going down. Appreciate y'all stopping through. This is what we're doing every Wednesday now, yo. All right. Until next time, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Have a good day. Bye-bye.